Morning, Nyambura.
Every one of us relates to education in a unique way. But all of us have seen or will see the impact of education in their lives. As a child, as a parent, as a citizen interacting with other people whose personality and behavior have been shaped by a certain type of education system.
Morning, Anthony. How are you? Are you sure? You don't look right. Morning, Kaya.
Morning.
How are you? Good.
A long time ago, knowledge was brought to the people in a way they could understand it. And one of those ways was using images. There was all kinds of ways of putting knowledge in a way it could be interpreted by the people.
Nitagwo Paulina Njoki, na njũkĩte cukuru ũyũ, na nĩ cukuru ndawĩrirĩirie, na ngĩona atĩ ciana ingĩthomera cukuru ũyũ irĩ na ũũgĩ, na nĩ ciana ikwendana, na nĩ ciana cia mĩthemba yothe.
The 84 system cannot be compared with this school here, because what I saw them being taught is very different from other schools.
Most of us can remember education as mainly developing the ability of our brain in such a way that we learn to develop one form of intelligence only, whereas the human being has the extraordinary power of developing multiple intelligences.
We look for many skill sets in people we employ. But I think more importantly, as the world gets more competitive, we're looking for independent people, we're looking for creative people, we're looking for people who are self-motivated. And you know, the world of philosophy and certainly education system produces people who are by nature, you know, self-thinking, self-motivated, creative thinking, and I think the school nurtures that kind of approach to life.
So Elliot was at a school where the emphasis was really on drilling, rote learning, and he's only 4, but at the age of 4 he was already telling us he found school boring, that he didn't want to go anymore. Learning, before he'd even really started to learn anything, it ceased to be fun. And that's what we love about Waldorf, is he comes here, it's fun, he looks forward to being with his friends, he's excited to see his teachers, he tells us about the things that he's making, he tells us his stories, he invents new stories, he comes home with dirt on his face from playing outside, and so you know, that's what we really love about this experience for him.
We had tried, our children were in the local system, and we were able to compare, to look at how the concepts were being passed. I felt they were not really understanding the concepts.
A world of education also gives room for creativity. If it's crafts, the child himself gets to create their own image and put it there, and the end result is beautiful to them. So it's not picking one thing and everyone does the same, but everyone has the chance to do what they do best and what comes from within them.
Well, I think as an artist, one thing I wish I'd had more of was an opportunity to be more to explore more as a child. You know, I sort of came into art slowly. I mean, I did piano lessons as a child, but it was always sort of in a way extracurricular. You know, and you always want to be in a situation where that part of a child is being harnessed from the beginning.
If education is about bringing forth what is within, then it should do more than just focusing on our mind, but also empower our heart and our hands. Educating the head, the heart, and the hands is what Waldorf education is all about.
In Waldorf education, we give the children the time and the space to learn, to explore. So there's no pressure, there's no time crunch, there's no it must be like this. We really let the children have space and time to explore the environment, to learn and to discover. And I think that really helps them to love learning, this positive engagement with the environment. And I mean, in my class, the sound that we have, our learning sound is, oh, like as the children see it for themselves, it's like, ah, that's what it is, or that's what's behind it.
We came from Denmark and our kids went to a Waldorf school there, and the transition they make, even though they didn't speak a word of English or Kiswahili. They come in the same flow, there's the same rhythm, there's the same wooden toys, and that they work in the garden, that they cut their own food, that they wash their own bowls. It's a very Kenyan translation of Steiner here compared to what the translation was in Denmark, and that's the beauty of it.
It is very evident that the children who are going through the Waldorf system are coming out well-rounded, as opposed to those who are going through the system that we have, whereby so long as you attain the grades, you are said to have succeeded, but in reality, you cannot actually fit in the community.
In Waldorf, we'd grown up in a way that you're taught to be one. You grow up in an individual entity. You're developed here, and everybody is together. We work together. It's a unity.
You know, when children start school, there's a sense of abandonment. They're almost fraught by that sense of abandonment. And as a first-time mom at the time, I remember thinking, I don't want my daughter to feel that. Well, what I found here was this very beautiful, gradual, natural process that I could not have been happier for. You know, hearing a child every single morning singing before she went to school, singing as she's going to the bathroom, singing as... That just fills a parent's heart with joy, because you know that they're happy in the place that they are.
What a child experiences in the first 7 years sets a foundation for life.
Using different activities or different forms of doing it, it shows this child is getting ready. Involving the whole part of the child is very important for this child learning, because you involve their whole body, their heart rate. It's amazing when you involve everything and their weakness comes in.
During these years, childhood should be a free place with no fear for the future. The little child up to the age of 7, up to the change of teeth, is essentially imitative. He learns by doing what he sees being done around him. All activities of a child's early years are imitations. Waldorf teachers in the kindergarten work with the young child by creating a warm, beautiful, and loving home-like environment, which provides security and protection, and where things happen in a rhythmic, repetitive manner.
When the parents bring the child, we have to find out, how did the child sleep? How did the child wake up? What did they have for breakfast? The teacher gets to know what is happening to the child at home, and that way in class it becomes so easy for you, because you know a bit of a history about the child.
The teacher will use textbooks to gather all the material they need, and then it's up to the teacher to find creative ways of passing this information to the children, so that the children never have to look at a finished product, but hear something that's still developing. Bringing it to the child as a whole after working with it inside them. Then the child can learn.
In the kindergarten, telling stories, dancing, singing, and celebrating, which form the roots of human culture all over the world, feed the inner being of the young child as they bring color, magic, form, music, pictures, creativity, curiosity, and a comforting wisdom that has stood the test of time.
Very tired, she went outside and she sat.
These experiences are further deepened through arts and craft, such as painting, drawing, modeling, singing, and music playing.
When our children came to Nairobi Waldorf School, children were allowed to be children again, and there was really an emphasis on, in the early years, on children growing into their skin and becoming confident in who they are before they go through the stressful process of learning and structure and maths and numbers, which are very complex ideas for someone at that age. So the home life became so much less stressful, and we could play and get to know each other and, you know, really enjoy the early years of the child's life.
When we look at our school, we can see that it's very different than many other schools. It's not full of concrete blocks. The ground is not leveled. It's got this beautiful natural undulation, which is so important for children as they learn to develop the balance, which, you know, also has implications. There's a lot of neuroscience looking at all of these linkages now. This resonates with the children. You go into many classrooms today, And it's quite shocking how plastic and artificial the colors are, you know, how there's just so much overstimulation hanging from ceilings and things like that, how leveled the ground is, and they're concrete environments or bricked environments. And I don't feel that's a stimulating environment in which to learn in.
The young child between the age of 0 to 7 naturally moves, and World of Education takes that into account and allows children to be in movement, both in space but also internally. For example, when you tell a story, they are listening, they're having movements by making and creating images in them. So this external and internal movement, which naturally happens for them, is mirrored, and that carries on throughout the curriculum up to high school.
Discipline in the early years can only be understood in terms of guidance. Rhythm, example, and consistency go a long way towards preventing discipline problems. Waldorf teachers know that children learn by imitation and always correct them through their own example and with positive and creative statements rather than commands.
Creative discipline in Waldorf, it's like redirecting the energy. Like if there's a lot of energy, maybe with the boys also because they have lots of energy, they can help also in the garden, like helping the bamboos we have in the compound, pushing the wheelbarrows, picking up the leaves. With that, they are able to let the extra energy out. If it's hitting, drums are interesting, they are exciting. So if the teacher also is part of the, not like they are put aside, like you've done this wrong, you need to be aside, they are not set aside, but also being put together, they drum together, they produce beautiful music, and from there they know their hands, their feet are not just for hitting, for kicking, but they can do other beautiful things with them.
The classroom control that teacher Irene exhibits, amazing. I love the way that she gently redirects the children. If they're throwing sand, sand doesn't have wings, it shouldn't be flying.
The free play, in which children act out scenarios of their own creation, helps them to experience many aspects of life.
In a Waldorf curriculum, play is the important work of children. That is how we get to know, is that child really developing? Is their imagination?
The main reason why a child will have to turn 7 in class 1 is that very important physical, emotional, social, and cognitive developments in the child are short-circuited if intellectual learning begins too early. When children leave kindergarten and enter first grade at the age of 6 or 7, they are ready to meet the world through their imagination. During these years, the teacher, who accompanies the child through all 8 grades of elementary school, translates what the child needs to know to the language of imagination. Numbers, letters, science, mathematics, geometry, history are seen and taught through the lens of the child's imagination.
As a pediatrician, development is something that we focus on at every office visit. And so I think before they're ready to learn how to do numbers and letters, they really kind of need to figure out who they are, and their coordination needs to develop first, and their social skills need to develop first, and they need to learn how to interact with each other. Then you can add these other things, how to read and how to write and how to do arithmetic, compared to how to interact with other kids, how to play, how to be empathetic. So that's another reason I just love the Waldorf curriculum.
Two, three, let's go.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17.
Here in Kenya, I think we're very lucky that all the children have access to shambas and farms. So when we get into our shamba at school and they are cutting the soil with their djembe, it's like, oh, okay, so that's why my dad does it, to loosen the soil so that the soil can be aerated and the seeds can grow. That's really key to this enjoyment and love, because it's something that they can connect to. It's something that's real to them. It's something that's alive for them and alive in them.
The children engage in a variety of activities that cultivate the imaginative faculties. Drawing, painting, poetry recitation, drama, singing, playing a musical instrument. All subjects including mathematics and grammar, woodwork and knitting, sports and foreign languages, all of which are part of the Waldorf curriculum, are taught imaginatively and artistically as well.
Monsieur garçon, j'arrive. Je voudrais la carte, s'il vous plaît. Oui? And then, voilà, madame.
Now, Mother Bird had two young ones. The youngest, and one who was slightly older than the youngest. And so, Mother Bird left her nest and spread her wings out. And as soon as she had done that, the two young ones followed, almost immediately. By now, they had learned how to copy Mother Bird. The youngest one would need to flap much quicker. So, she would rest and then flap, rest and then flap, rest and then flap. The young one who was older than the youngest one didn't need as much rest as the young one. So, what would she do? She would rest, rest and then flap, rest, rest and then flap. The mother, who had been flying for a long, long time, would take longer moments of rest before flapping. So what would she do? She would rest, rest, rest and then flap. Rest, rest, rest and then flap. Now, let's all try and fly like the young bird. Eh? The young bird would fly, rest and then flap. Rest and then flap. Rest and then flap. Rest and then flap.
These activities help the children build academic skills slowly, fortified with deep comprehension and understanding.
My name is Summer and I made a small ball, but I used to have one the size of this but much bigger. This one is tea cheese. I made two of them. This one had a little bit less stuffing. This one had more stuffing, but one was bigger than the other, so I had to knit another one.
So yes, we don't have formal assessments, we don't have written examinations, but the children are under constant, conscious and careful observation by the teacher. So that teacher knows every single child in her class. She knows exactly what each child needs. She knows exactly what each child is able to do. She knows exactly what each child should be pushed to do. And I think that is really why we don't need to do formal tests and assessments, because the teacher is the one who knows these children inside out and who knows what needs to happen.
You find that they're very comfortable within themselves, and out there in the corporate world, it can be very cutthroat and people can have their confidence really cut down. So these children grow up very confident. There's a lot of diversity in the school, and because they respect that people are different and everybody is different and they're all as good as everybody else, they tend to get along with any kind of people. So they would work very well out there with a diverse number of people.
I think that in many ways, like, our Kenyan curriculum is just so loaded with all these facts, which take the fun out of learning, you know, and then also burden a child with all this information that A, maybe they don't really understand, but B, that they'll never really use in life, you know.
So as I teach this class handwork, and this is a handwork verse that comes out of local history, hunters and gatherer communities. It can fit, they can learn it, and then we'll use it in our handwork lesson. One lesson goes over to another lesson as well, so that what you do in the different lessons have relationship to the other lessons. Not that we start doing geography now and then we shut off from geography and now we do English, but there's a relationship between the English, the writing that you're doing. Even you see maths, because they're measuring. They've been taught how to measure the edge of the paper so that they get a regular margin around. So even maths is entering into what they're doing now.
As we begin to understand more and more about some of the way the brain does learn, which is still a there's still a huge unknown about that. I think there's more and more coming out about the role of movement in stimulating different neural pathways, in making sure that we don't just have one superhighway, which when you're looking at creative problem solving, you need to have many different pathways to go along, and all of these different creativities, they build different skill sets which stimulate the brain to build different neural pathways.
There's all kinds of forms of visual arts: drawing, coloring, painting, using line drawing, shading, all those kind of things, and then later on black and white drawing, pastel work. Then there is literature and poetry, and the appreciation of poetry, not just reading it and analyzing it as is often done in other schools, but actually reading it and learning it, enjoying it, and doing it as a group, making group activities where the whole class is valuing and appreciating the poetry. And then literature, and then of course storytelling, which combines music and art.
My son has become a human being. As much as we want A students, as much as we want them to push them to be doctors, the bottom line is that Waldorf has made my child, and together with the teachers, they've helped me mold my child into a human being. And the parents are involved in making sure that the school runs properly. It's the first school ever where parents run the school actually, where parents make decisions. And we have very many activities that I really enjoy. You cannot afford to miss a Waldorf activity.
Sababu watoto naita mimi babu, walikuwa mtoto ya sister yangu ndio ilikuwa imeanza kuita mimi babu. Vile waliita mimi babu, sasa hao watoto kwa shule wakaanza kuita mimi babu. Kwanza nikuja asubuhi, lazima ni make sure kiwanja iko mzuri pale kwa watoto wangu kuchezea, sababu ni wajukuu wangu kama.
We are doing on organic foods, purely organic foods, because we get suppliers who supply us directly from the shambas, like from Kiambu, from Limuru, at times even at Tanzania, like the potatoes. And we are really trying to have healthy kids, but who are also happy. So we try to play around with the foods, like give them what they want, but nutritious.
According to me, to my wife, what you have seen here, children are taught how even to make their food, to arrange their utensils, their clothes, and they are 84 years only to read and writing, nothing else they know.
Well, generally the system is very friendly towards the students. The teachers work a lot with the students, so you can really grow as a person from a very young age. I mean, I found when I went away from the school that I had a very different level of maturity compared to the rest of my class.
What's interesting and unique about Waldorf education is that for especially the formative years of adolescence for children, they loop with their teachers, so the class sticks together and becomes its own sense of community and ecosystem as they grow up when these children mature. So it is very important that not only for the community but for the children, they see that there's longevity and there's a path and a route through this system all the way to the high school level.
Usually what I find in other schools, in other systems, they sort of grow up all together, sort of merge. They don't really know how to distinguish themselves from the others. But here they develop on your individual talents, on who you are, on what you should be in life. They focus on you, not the whole class, not it's you. It's a personal growing up experience.
I'm actually quite good at maths, and the teacher here, Mr. Moy, he was a fantastic teacher. He taught me everything. I loved maths. It was actually one of my favourite subjects while I was at Waldorf. And in fact, I still do love maths at school now.
I think going to Waldorf has really given me the chance to appreciate education.
For me, when I moved from Waldorf, what was difficult about it was the fact that it was so different. Because I loved Waldorf with everything that I had. I loved Waldorf. I thought it was the best system. I had very good friends here. So it was a bit difficult, but then I managed, because Waldorf teaches you to manage when you have a situation in front of you that you find difficult. you make it not difficult. You make it how you think it should be. You work through it. You unwind everything so that it's clear.
I think once you are with Waldorf, you don't want to go anywhere else. I think once you see the gift that that child receives in kindergarten already, and then gives that gift back to the parents, to the community, to the neighbors, to the fellow children in that class, you can't imagine you would have to pull your child ever out of a Waldorf school. Currently, there is everything up until grade 7 or class 7 in the Nairobi Waldorf School, but that has to continue. I mean, there has to be a secondary school. There even has to be a university, for that matter. Because if you want to think of an educational path from kindergarten entry at the age of, let's say, 2, to the end of tertiary education, maybe at 24, you would want this to be Waldorf all the way.